it can be an agile process, it can be a lean process, it can be an ITSM. ITSM is nothing but your service management, where your change management, release management, incident management, these things will come into the picture, right? So DevOps is in the middle, and DevOps will take certain things from agile, DevOps will take certain things from ITSM, DevOps will take certain things from lean, and combination of all the things together is going to give you a successful business growth for a company. Okay, so this is what DevOps is. Any doubts, guys? I mean, like, is it all clear? Are you guys able to understand it? Just put it on a chat and I'll be happy to help you guys across, right? Next, who should learn DevOps, right? So, okay, I'm telling this is the roles and responsibilities. I'm telling you what is DevOps, why DevOps, and who should learn DevOps. Do you need to have any prior experience in learning DevOps? Absolutely not. Anyone who is actually a non-technical guys, anyone who is working from business field, who is actually into development and who already knows testing, anyone can learn DevOps, right? It can be a BA, it can be a developer, it can be a build engineer, a release engineer, a service manager, an operations engineer, a tester, a production support guy who was just doing a monitoring alone, and a configuration engineer, a cloud engineer. Anyone can learn DevOps. As simple as that. Even a fresher can learn DevOps, because that's how you start your career. And if you choose DevOps as your career, then you will have a rocket high, because as Atul mentioned, there are lots and lots of openings outside in the market, and the salary is also damn high. So if you are able to choose a DevOps path, you don't need to worry whether I don't know technical and other things. This is the right career for you to choose, and we will help you to achieve as much as we can, right?
Okay, so
now,
thanks. Sorry, can we go back, guys? Another question, quick question. If you go back to the previous slide, Sudeshna is saying, can I learn, be effective without knowing any sort of coding? Absolutely. So there are, in DevOps, you'll be either a developer or you'll be playing a ops role. So in your case, I would see more on an ops role, and I do the same thing. I don't know nothing about coding, and I have done a lot of ops work. So DevOps, absolutely. So I can see Dhananjay, cloud architecture tester, operations. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the next one, please. Yeah.
Yes. So to give you an example, I'm also not a developer, so I know zero coding, and I'm surviving in DevOps for the last 13 years. So absolutely, you don't need to know coding to survive in DevOps, right? Okay. Yep. So now let's jump into DevOps tools and lifecycle, right? So what is the general lifecycle of DevOps? So you will start with a normal SDLC lifecycle, right? So plan, coding, build, test, release, deploy, operations, monitor. So this will be a normal DevOps lifecycle, and these are all the various tools which will help you to support this particular lifecycle, right? Now, these are all the different sections of that particular area of DevOps. Like code repository has multiple tools, build has multiple tools, code review has multiple tools, testing has multiple tools, CI/CD has multiple tools, deployment has variety of tools, configuration management, orchestration, monitoring. So every aspect of these DevOps phases, we call this as different phase. Every phase has multiple tools available in the market. So you can choose any of the tools that is up to your mark, whichever is easy. And then if you know the concepts of this, learning other tool is very easy, right? It's not mandate like you should know all the tools available in DevOps. It's just like you should know how a different phases of DevOps works. That's more than enough, right? Now, the famous ones. Now, whatever we have learned over here in this previous is a normal DevOps aspects. Now, what we are going to learn is DevOps on cloud. So this time we are going to learn DevOps on AWS cloud. So how DevOps is being done? If you see, the phases still remains the same. As I said, the underground phase, planning, coding, build, test, release, deploy, and operate is always same. Whether I'm going to work from on-premises, whether I'm going to work on VMware, whether I'm going to work on AWS or Azure, the underground phase of DevOps is always the same. Just the tool varies. Since it is in AWS, here you will be learning AWS different tools like AWS Code Commit, Code Pipeline, Elastic Beanstalk, Code Deploy, X-Ray, Cloud Drive. So all these phases of DevOps accordance with your AWS. That's what your AWS DevOps is.
So
When you
hold
jump,
on sorry, 1 second. If you go back to the previous slide, sorry. So what's happening is, like, till now companies were doing their own different tools, and managing and building those tools were is very challenging, because you have to manage different tools. So what now these cloud vendors provide, like AWS or Azure, they provide is that they provide all set of the similar tools, either same or their own implementation of those tools in here. And that's what we are going to look at today, is one of the demos, everything at one place. And that's why these are becoming very popular. DevOps on cloud. Over to you, Subbu. And there are a lot of questions are coming. So good, guys, keep asking these questions. I'm going to cover all of them. We'll try to answer as many as towards end. So keep these questions coming. Over to you.
sure, absolutely. So next, as I said, we will jump on to Azure Cloud, right? So as we saw AWS Cloud DevOps, now on Azure Cloud, again, the phases is the same. Boards, repositories, pipelines, test plans, and artifacts. So these are all the different tools available in Azure DevOps to compensate the different phases of your automation, right? So we will learn about this Azure DevOps detailed in the course, and the demo that I'm going to show you is also on Azure DevOps, right? Now, this is a sample screen of how an Azure DevOps looks like. And this is the different phases, whatever we mentioned, like boards, repositories, pipelines, test plans, and artifacts. So when I show a demo, I'll just let you know about different menu options, right? Now, let's jump on to the first phase, which is code repository. So what do you mean by code repository? As simple as that. A developer is writing a code, let it be any code, Java, .NET, Perl, Python, XYZ, whatever it is. You just need to save that code in some place so that that code resides safely, and you can version control it, and you can use that for rollback if something happens wrong as a backup. This is what we call it as version control system. And a famous version control systems in the world is Git, right? And you will learn a lot about this Git and the different labs and hands-on labs on Git and everything in our course duration. But this is the overview of what is a version control system. Similarly, the same available in AWS is AWS code commit, right? So you just need to use this to store your repository, and it automatically version controls it. And in Azure, we use it as Azure repositories. But the underground concept of version control system is always the same. The next phase is build. Okay, I have my code kept in the repository. Next, what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a build. So what do you mean by build? So this will be a very good interview questions when someone goes and sits on an interview for DevOps. They will ask you, can you explain me what is a build? So what is a build? Build is nothing but conversion of your source code into a compilation code. As simple as that. Okay, I'm taking a source code and I'm compiling it to create an output, and that output in DevOps we call it as artifacts. Okay, let that be a EAR file or a jar file or a war file or a zip file or a whatever it is. The output which you get after converting your source code into an compilation code, that process is called as build. Okay, to do that build. Okay, the most famous ones is Maven nowadays, and previously Apache Ant was the ones that has been using, and Gradle is the one that people also use a lot of aspects to do the build, right? So this build is a process of converting your source code into an artifacts. Okay, I have converted my artifacts. Next, what I'm going to do? I'm obviously going to do a testing. So the most famous testing tools are Selenium and JMeter. JMeter is mainly used for your load test or a performance test cases. And Selenium, you can use it for your functional test cases or regression test cases and other things, right? So I'm actually creating, I checked in the code, I have done the build, I've created an artifact, I have done the testing. So what should be the next step? The next step should be automatically a CI/CD. So what do you mean by a CI/CD? This is a famous terms where you will see this in a lot of JDs and a lot of portals in the jobs and everything. CI is nothing but continuous integration, a process where a person is checking in the code into repository till the testing happens. Okay, that is called as my continuous integration. So, and this should happen 100 times, 200 times every day in an automatic way. That's what CI is, continuous integration.
And what do you mean by continuous delivery or continuous deployment? After I have tested it, I have to put that into a server. Let it be a QA server, let it be an UAT server, or let it be a pre-production server, let it be a production server. So when I try to take the output and deploy that output into a particular server, that process is called as my continuous delivery or a continuous deployment.
Thanks, Subbu. Guys, pay special attention on this particular point, which is continuous delivery and deployment. As Subbu was highlighting, that continuous delivery, as you see on the left-hand side, is that where a manual intervention is required to deploy the code onto the production environment. So you're automating and doing the delivery part till the staging environment. When it comes to the production, you're deploying it manually. But whereas the continuous deployment is all the way automation till the production environment. So you've refined, you've tested, and like as long as those tests are successful, you don't need any manual approval. It automatically goes into the production environment as well. So a little bit more advanced deployment. Subbu, if you want to add something, otherwise over to you, Subbu.
Thank you, Atul. And this we will see extensively in this course with many labs and a lot of tools as well. We will show a lot of demos on Jenkins. We will use Azure DevOps. We will use AWS DevOps, and you will see a variety of CI/CD options with multiple languages like Java, .NET, Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform. So you will get a lots and lots of hands-on experiences in this course, especially on the CI/CD aspects, right?
Sorry, if you can go back. First of all, good job, guys. This is important. Again, interview questions, CI/CD. A lot of guys, when we interview or our students have been interviewed, they trip on CI/CD differences. So I hope this is clear. Also, there was someone was asking, is it applicable for network engineers? Is it applicable for database administrators? Absolutely. Like if you see now from a network engineer point of view, the network topologies you deploy, for example, in cloud, you're deploying using Terraform scripts. You're using automate that build. Similarly, if you're doing the changes, modifications, all of these can be toned down. Same thing for database administrators, your SQL scripts, your database builds, all those things should go via the CI/CD pipeline. That's what the whole beauty is about. Yep.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So to add one more point for the database guys who are really interested in CI/CD, right? So we generally use this database pipelines to take up the backup backpack or whatever it is. We generally take the backup of all the databases. We execute PostgreSQL scripts using the CI/CD pipelines, and you can do variety of tasks using the CI/CD pipelines, right? And for network engineers also, you can write your network as a code and put that code into a Git repository, and you can create a CI/CD pipeline to automatically provision an infrastructure in a network aspects as well. So anything can be done in DevOps, right?
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. So, now thanks for Balaji for the feedback. Good explanation. Suman, I'm going to cover your question as well. Let's move on and then we'll cover these. Over to you.
Sure. So this is just a basic introduction of Jenkins. As I told you, it's a CI/CD tool. You will learn more about Jenkins and administration and doing a lot of things in the course because I cannot explain more the time-consuming aspects. And on AWS side, the similar tool which we have is code pipeline. Again, the concept is the same. Whatever I told you, it's just like AWS related tool that helps you to do a CI/CD. And on
now, 1 second, yeah. So if you go back again, sorry, onto the CI/CD on AWS, I want to highlight because there's a lot of things come or a lot of job requirements related to CI/CD on AWS. So you can have a source code either on AWS itself. AWS has a code repository, or you can integrate with third-party tool. Similarly, build, you can use AWS's own build tool, or you can use third-party. Same thing, test, you can use, you can integrate with third-party, and same thing with Azure Cloud as well. And then you deploy on a staging servers. Once it's tested, you can either fully automate and say, once it's tested, it goes to an approval, and then once approved, it goes to the production environment. Or you say, I'm going to manually approve it, and then only once it's approved, tested, then it goes to production. Over to you. Let's move on. Thanks.
Sure. So the next similar thing is on the Azure CI/CD, right? So just a normal process of your integration and then continuous integration, continuous deployment into different websites. So this is what it is, right? The next, what we are trying to do is like, okay, we have seen the life cycle, we have seen the coding into Git, we have seen the build using Maven, we have seen the testing using Selenium, and we have seen the deployment using CI/CD. Now I need to have an infrastructure to deploy it. So to create an infrastructure and to do a configurations inside it, that's where we use Terraform and Ansible, right? So what do you mean by Terraform? Terraform, as you would have heard, it's very, very famous in recent times. Like every DevOps engineer, they must have to know Terraform for sure. That's how famous it is. And this is mainly used to provision your infrastructure, let it be AWS or Azure or GCP or Oracle or on-prem, whatever it is. You need an infrastructure to be provisioned at the matter of time, immediately during. And this can be automated using this Terraform, right? So it provisions your infrastructure on the runtime, and once if your work is done, you can destroy the infrastructure on the runtime as well. So that's easy, Terraform is. And what is Ansible is doing? Ansible is actually doing a configuration management, right? So I'll give you a simple example to understand between Terraform and Ansible, okay? So I'm actually creating a virtual machine, okay? The virtual machine, consider it as an infrastructure. So I'm using a Terraform to create a virtual machine, okay, or your laptop.